Hey, what can I do? Episode 121, Above Ground Podcast.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Are you ready to lace up your boots, throw up your horns, and jump into the pit? Then let's stomp the stigmas of mental illness. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now, Will Foley and Timothy Patrick.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to
Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
You know who that is?
That's Willie. It's Willie. You know who that is? It's TPP.
That's my friend Willie.
What's up, TPP? What's up, Timmy? It's been a while,
It's
buddy.
been a while. A little excited, back in the saddle.
Yeah, dude, we are back in the saddle. It's been summer.
Yeah.
Summer kind of got away. Tim and I have just wrapped up September, which was Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, and we were in the throes of summer, and we kind of got to about mid-July, and our schedules just kind of exploded with like just different things going on, just all kinds of stuff. So we had a bunch of stuff that we needed to clean out, and it happened to work out really well because we were able to put together 5 really, really good episodes about suicide and what it's like to be a survivor, whether it's an attempt survivor, a lost survivor, both. And we had a really good run of 5 episodes, and we hope you enjoyed those. And
If you missed them, it's starting at 116 to 120. It was the whole month of September in honor of, as Will said, Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And luckily we had people that were willing to share their stories and their truths with us, and we both feel that it's very important to get these out, and so people can hear them. So I hope you did. If you did hear them, I hope you did enjoy them. But you can always email us and let us know. abovegroundpodcast@gmail.com.
that's right. It is abovegroundpodcast@gmail.com. You can just drop us a line, ask a question, throw a comment, whatever. We are actually going to get to a question in a minute because that's what this episode is actually going to be about. But wrapping up, don't forget, suicide prevention and awareness is not just a month. It's 365, 24/7. So 1-800-273-8255 is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. 741-741 is the text hotline number, and if you text help or text hi or text something to them, they will text you back. We also shared that the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has a program called Healing Conversations, and Healing Conversations is a program that is for people who have experienced a loss, are teamed up with people who have experienced the same loss a couple of years out, that can sort of be peer support for those people and for those types of situations, regardless of whether it's a parent experiencing the loss of a child or a child experiencing the loss of a parent. They will try to connect you with that type of peer, and you can take advantage of that program by going to afsp.org/healing conversations. But thank you very much for checking it out. And I hope that we find you well here at the start of October. We're just getting into fall, and I'm kind of excited about this episode because somebody actually asked us something for once that we can actually like have a conversation about, man, and that's what it's all about.
Right. Yeah. So, and if anybody is listening, you feel free to shoot us a message, and if you have any questions or you would like to hear us yap about something and maybe come to some kind of a conclusion. But Yeah, so we had an email, and I misplaced the email, so I don't have the verbatim words written out as far as what she said, but it's from Alyssa, and she was asking how to fail effectively. If it's possible to fail and, have good outcomes from your failing, I guess, would be to kind of wrap that question up.
The greatest teacher is failure. So
Sure.
says Yoda. So says Master Yoda.
He would know.
He would. And he speaks a lot about failure.
I mean, if you're going to listen to anybody, I would think listening to a Jedi Master would be a wise choice.
Yeah, it'd be higher on my list than any dogmatic wanderers of the religiosity ilk. But hey, that's just me. First, I think we have to stop saying failure, because I guess what is really a failure? To me, and this is my opinion, I think a failure is when you experience a loss and you refuse to get back in the ring.
I agree with you 100%. So
now, granted, that looks different for everyone, and that, like getting back in the ring means all kinds of different things. So it may not be the same ring, but you still got to get up. You got to get up and dust yourself off, because unfortunately, if you stay down, you have a harder time getting up the longer you stay down. And I failing effectively, how you fail effectively, in how I feel it sounds to me, is the only way to fail effectively is to not look at anything as a failure and look at it as the true teaching experience that it is. And look at it as part of your PhD.
that's kind of, I wrote down some stuff that was very similar, I guess, how can you not let failure affect your state of mind? And kind of what you were saying, I think maybe in general, the best thing to do individualistically is to define failure for yourself. You know what I mean? You need to know what failure is, and and take it in reverse and flip it. You need to know what your goals are. You know what I mean? You can't just get out there and just start going. I mean, you can, but you want to have your goal written down on a piece of paper, clear and as concise as possible, so you know where you're going. But failure is the same thing. What's your definition of failure? And kind of piggyback off what Will said, like, I personally don't feel like it's a failure if you continue to get back in the ring, as he said. It's just a mistake. It's a mistake, and if you have to start over, you're not starting over from scratch. You're starting over from the steps you already took to get to where you thought that you failed. So I guess use your mistakes as stepping stones to guide you into a better way. You know what I mean? Another path, just to guide you to stay on the stones, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely.
So mistakes, I guess, can help us learn if we focus on the lesson and not view it, again, as Will said, not view it as a failure. So maybe try and pick a different word. Mistake is what I kind of would call it, unless you decide to give up and just say, I can't do this, or for whatever reason, you know what I mean? There's variables to that, but again, if you focus on the lesson, it can teach us something, as Will said. And maybe if you have to stop using the word failure, stop using the word failure. If you decide that whatever it is you're working towards or working on isn't for you, and you realize that kind of later in the game, you can always change it or change the outlook to it. Change your outlook on it, or change your reaction to it, whatever, because your mindset is a big variable in this, I think. I think that there's, especially, I see it, maybe I see it more often now because I have a child, but there's a lot of, I see it in sports. There's a lot of kids that they want to be the greats. They look at these, celebrity athletes and these star players that, are star players for a reason, because, you know what I mean? They've had careers they've worked at for 15 plus years. So, when you go out for a sport or whatever it is, and you try it out and you work a little bit at it, and if you're not to that level, that you shouldn't really be at that level. So, that's kind of where comparing comes in too. You don't want to compare yourself to anybody like that, and especially at that level that those other people are, because they're probably, they live it. You know what I mean? They're probably practicing doing this stuff every minute of their day and training. So, that's just in that avenue as far as sports goes. But, if you're going to compare yourself to anybody, compare it to yourself from yesterday, and try and do a little bit better than you did yesterday.
Yeah. I think a good thing that you could do, though, is examine what you view as a failure.
Right. Examine
that particular failure, or not failure, but examine the lesson that that is trying to teach you. And that's a big thing, is that we, like, me, I can speak from my experience for this too, because we've all experienced this at one time or another. We thought, learning was when you go to school, and once you're done with school, you don't learn anymore. The fact is that if you close yourself off to that learning, it also closes yourself off to be able to examine your own life on a level that you need to be able to examine it at this time to make better choices and to make it better, period.
So, like, having insight would be...
Well, you can't have any insight until you examine something.
Right.
So, that'll help you, right, and that'll help you gain some insight. And,
right, I see what you're saying.
Now, I do understand where a lot of people come out with you don't start something until you have a plan. The problem is, though, is that if you waited until you had a plan for everything you start, you can't, because you would never start.
Yeah, that's a certain person, I think. I don't know.
I think a very disciplined person who is used to making lists and stuff, yes, that works for her. But some people just need to throw shit at a wall and make poop art.
once you start, like, what, you know what I mean? That's starting. Like, once you just take that first step, you know what I mean? Like,
right. You may not know the map, but you can figure it out along the way.
Now you're in there.
Right.
And sometimes that's, the hardest part, which I would think that you could understand that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes the hardest part is just to get yourself to the starting line, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the war of art is all about. Stephen Pressfield, I mean, look, we all face resistance. And that's what it is, man. It's resistance. And resistance will stick a 9mm in your face and tell you to shut the fuck up and you're a liar and you're not going to accomplish anything. That's what resistance is job to do. It's to make you
doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does it very well. It's resistance is meant to keep you small. That's what it's meant to do, man. So you can't listen to it. But we are all victims of it at one time or another. We all listen to that little voice in our head that says, you don't need to do that today. Go play golf. No, you deserve a break. Go get a massage.
I think a little bit of that resistance is ego, right?
Oh, absolutely. A little bit of resistance is ego for sure, I think. Or if it's not ego, it's certainly... That's the part it goes after.
Yeah.
Is the ego.
Just
for sure.
Like, we're keeping you safe over here.
You
don't want to
exactly.
Go in that.
You don't want to do that.
You don't want to jump in that water. No. You stay right here.
No, you stay here. It's comfortable.
Yeah. Oh, hey, it is a little wet right there.
Wet. Yeah.
But one thing I do want to mention, for this person that asked, or for anybody that is listening and wants to kind of get some tips on that, but. While you're doing this, or whatever you're doing, the process that you're in, make sure you're giving yourself compassion and taking breaks when needed. Because taking a break isn't giving up or failing. It's actually part of the process, and knowing when to stop for a break and come back to it, is huge. It's a huge help, because you come back to it more refreshed and more emotionally stable. And that's, again, it's part of the process, because that's helping you. You take a break and you rest. It's just as a regular day. You go to sleep at night, you wake up, kind of refreshed, and you can kind of have another shot at the day and look at things a little bit differently. Also, another thing that I think you can do is put it on paper. Write it out. I kind of said that earlier, but write it out on paper and journal, even like use that piece of paper as, put your goal or whatever you're working towards on the top, in big letters, and then underneath it you can journal. So each time you do it, maybe time it, or say, like, you could even journal your progress on it, kind of thing, and just so it might help you stick to that task. But that's only that journaling is for you. That's purely for being part of the process, and it's for your own use to gain some knowledge on it. Because you can go back on it the next day when maybe your brain is nice and refreshed, and look at it and kind of gain some insight on it and learn. You know what I mean? As Will says, you learn from it. You can read about it and go, geez, well, this day I tried it this way, and then I look back and 2 days ago I did it this way, and it seemed to be a little bit better. It seemed to be quicker. I got more done that day, and I was maybe even more happier at the end of the day because I saw some progress.
Now, this is a lot of stuff, though, also.
It is. Yeah.
So, again, like when Tim says be compassionate with yourself, he really means be compassionate with yourself. Because I'm starting to learn about what self-compassion really is over the last couple of weeks, because I started this John Kabat-Zinn program for mindfulness-based stress reduction, and he talks a lot about self-compassion.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be gentle with yourself. You
Absolutely.
can't beat yourself up. You can't, and don't, like, and the death knell is comparison, man. Don't go online comparing yourself to this one or that one, because you could sit there all day spinning and just
try and suspend all judgment.
Yeah,
You know?
and take a diet from like anything that's not necessary for that particular cleanup of aisle 5. You know what I mean? if you had something that you really like, so. You know what I wanted to actually say, though, too, because when we view failure, the first thing you have to do is, if you really feel that something was a failure for you, is you have to grieve it. And you have to grieve it and let it go. You have to sit with it for a short amount of time.
Let the process run its
and
course.
Let the process trust the process.
Okay.
That grief. Now I'm not saying that you're going to grieve everything. Some things are, hey, they are what they are. But look, you strive to do something and you feel that you failed at it. You need to grieve that, and then you pick yourself up and examine it, and you say, okay. And you look at your grief and you say, well, I'm hurting because of this, because I didn't live up, or I didn't, attain this. But why didn't you really attain it? Was it that you missed 3 days going to the gym? Was it like, there's definite...
I think all that, what you're talking about, falls into that self-compassion.
It does, but it's very hard to do.
Oh, sure.
It's very hard to do.
Sure
And it's very hard to trust it's very hard to trust that that's the right thing to do too, because so many of us grew up on a steady diet of tough love. You know what I mean? And look, there's a certain amount of that you do need. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that you don't need somebody to tell you suck sometimes to get you fired up to do something. Okay,
Right,
I'm not.
right. No, I know what you're saying.
There's a time and a place for that, and there's a certain age group that I think you start that at. I don't think you start that at as kids, yelling at kids, telling them that they gotta, you know what I mean? Because that just sets a bad precedent. But, sometimes you need somebody to be a little bit more forceful with you. But then you also have to realize that sometimes you may need yourself to just have some kid gloves, man, and be a little bit more gentle with yourself. And that alone will start to set your tone for a different paradigm that you're not yet in.
Right.
Because you're still creating something. So it's all about learning, man.
It is. And I was just going to say that. And just because you set that, that process in motion doesn't mean that in a week or two from now you're going to gain knowledge and say, you know what, I'm going to take these gloves off and see how it feels, and step up the game, or whatever you want to say, move it up a notch and try it, try this or try it harder or whatever it may be. I think that reassessing the situation.
Yeah, I think you always have to reassess, and and this has come up recently. For me, because we cycle. We talk about our cycles a lot, man, and I'm hitting a cycle myself, and have been off and on for like the last year and a half. And I've gone through these cycles at different times, and I've realized it now because I've been able to step back, and I'm like, okay, I go through this cycle every 5 to 7 years, dude, not without fail. And I start to realize why I start to do this, and you start to put the pieces together.
Right. Yep. Yeah,
Of the
dots.
puzzle, man. When you start to connect the dots of the constellation,
Right.
that's when you find the stars, man. It's just like you get to see Orion.
So being mindful.
It's really about being mindful.
Being mindful would be a good piece of this, you know. Self-compassion, being mindful, and
Yeah, you have to be, and that mindfulness is really just a cognizance of what you're doing. But and again, look, these are just things to think about. This is not. You can't just snap your fingers and go do this. You got. I mean, if you're in a particular point, you have to start where you're at. And if you're down and you're still in that grief period, then let that grief period go.
Right.
And then start.
Yep.
Don't start before you're done. Trust the process. And paint happy little trees, man.
Yeah, you don't want to start when you're knee deep in muck.
No, that's a bad time though.
Yeah, that's a good point to make, though. I think is that, which I think would probably come from mindfulness is know yourself a little bit and know your thoughts and watch them and be like, if you're trying something and you're feeling heavy resistance and telling yourself that you should just stop and give up and this isn't for you, like, take a break again, add that self-compassion and say, this is something I want to do. Maybe it's not for me, but right now is not a good time to say, like, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to try it, push further and maybe try again tomorrow or the next day.
I mean, you may discover that it's not for you.
Sure.
But don't make that discovery when you're down. Make that discovery at a point where you've exhausted what you feel is the amount of energy, and then assess. Don't do it from a bad spot because you're always going to see it through shitty colored glasses.
It's like going. How many times have you gone to the food store when you're starving?
Right. They always say it.
Yeah,
and
you
don't
just grab
shop
like
hungry,
you
man.
grab everything. You're just like, I'm just starving. I just want to get this, go home. And then you're opening the bag of chips on the way home. You're like, I'm just starving. I don't care.
Got Reese's peanut butter cups all over.
Right? Yeah. So that's part, that's how I kind of see it. It's like, don't start it because then, don't let yourself get starving and then go to the food store and go, I'm ready to do this. Nah, you got to, you know what I mean? You might not be ready. And when you're not being ready, it doesn't mean that, you can't do it or you're failing. It just means you're not ready yet. That's all.
Right.
It's very simple. That's it.
Yeah, don't catastrophize. And it's hard not to catastrophize because we're always that's the problem, man. That's why we're never mindful, because we're never in the present moment, because we're always stuck in the past, going, I don't want to do that again. But then we think about the future, and you're like, shit, I don't want to do that again that far ahead either.
Right.
It's just like, so you're never here now. Like, being here now is not in our
culture.
In our culture.
Yeah.
We want to be everywhere else but here now, because now is
dude, you nailed it. I think that's absolutely true. Like, we want to be everywhere else but here and now.
But here and now, we do. We
and
want
then
to
when
be
here and
everywhere
now's
else.
gone, we go,
what happened?
What happened? I wish I could go back to that. Like, yeah, I know. It's funny because you see, like, there's some, like, things where, like, articles where there's, like, you're at, like, the Grand Canyon or something, some big event or something like that, and you see, like, all the sitting there, like, either taking a picture or recording it, and then you see just one person, like, watching and, like, staying in the moment and going, look, I may not have a picture of this, but I'm seeing it firsthand right now. So,
I made that decision with the Black Crowes too. I did.
Yeah.
I was like, I was gonna. I put my phone up for the very beginning, and then I was just like, dude, I just want to enjoy the show, man.
Yeah,
I don't want to watch it from my
good,
screen. No, they were fucking awesome.
Yeah, they played that whole album.
So was Dirty Honey. Yeah. Yep, Shake Your Money Maker in its entirety, and then
Will was shaking his money
they
maker.
did Hey Hey, What Can I Do?
Oh, no way.
For their encore.
Wow, that's a rare Zeppelin song to do.
Yeah.
Nice, I like it.
Which I was glad they did a Zeppelin song.
Hey, what can I do? You know?
Yeah, right? Hey. But
We're not being mindful now. We'll see what happens when
no,
you're not being mindful.
mindful, right? We
go
get
off
off
on
tangents.
tangents and-
Sorry, yeah. See, sometimes this is what happens too, is that, summer passes us by, and Tim and I actually haven't been in a room together like this, like in months now at this point. Since June, actually. Since the last time we recorded. I mean, we've seen each other, but we haven't been in a room, so it's like to record anything. But yeah, so I'm hoping that we covered some of that. But look, failure is just a word. It's not an emotion. It's not a feeling.
That's a
it's
good
just
way to
a
sum
word.
it up, man. It's just a
failure
word.
is just a word. But so is learning. So is getting better. So is insight. Like, these are the things that if we look at things a little different and we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Like Wayne Dyer said. It's like, so you got to look at it as, okay, this is the cost of my admission for playing the game. This is what happens. Evel Knievel crashes his motorcycle, but that's what happens because he's in the arena. He gets up, he takes a bunch of drugs, takes a shot of wild turkey, and goes at it again. So go get your cane full of wild turkey, go get your drugs, go do whatever it is you got to do to get you through. And then assess where you're at tomorrow, and then start again. And then start again if you stop. Start again. Just keep starting over.
Right.
Because that gives you fire to start the next day. And that's what it's all about. It's all about being here and getting you through the next day.
Yeah, I think even like you said, like even if you can get through, even if you pause, take a break, even if you can get through the next hour, you can go, oh, wait a minute, I made it through the next hour. That was like nothing. Okay.
Yeah,
Then,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? If you have to do it that way, do it that way. But like you said, when you start again tomorrow, start again. But you're not starting from scratch. You're not going, all right, well now you're already kind of set up a little bit. And you may need to readjust things. You may need to tweak things and go, wow, this wasn't working. I'm going to try this way instead. That's fine. That's fine. Again, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting with knowledge, Right.
Well, it's just like mixing a record. You get a bunch of tracks in. The tracks don't sound exactly like you're going to hear them when they come out because the engineer's got to tweak everything.
Right.
Like our good friend here, Will. He's going to tweak things. But, you tweak things, man. You get the EQs going. You run the compressions. You clean up the tracks in between, all the little clicks and everything, and you make sure everything's nice and tight and polished. And that's all it is. It's just about fixing the knobs, man.
Right.
Turn the knobs. You may come up with this really cool sound that you've never heard before. And it's like you wouldn't have if you didn't fail at the first sound because you had to mix something else up. So
I mean, sometimes that's how greatness happens.
That is how greatness. I think
mean,
that's how a lot of greatness happens. But maybe I was just being a little bit,
No, I think
over the top zealous when I said that.
I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I definitely that's how a lot of it happens for sure. It's like, you know what I mean? If you don't know, it's like I guess it's kind of organic. You're not, you know what I mean? You're trying stuff out, and
I like that word, organic, because that's really what that's where it's really that's where real creativity comes in. That organic,
right? And at the end of the day, the only person that really has to like it is you,
right?
You know what I mean? So it's like it doesn't matter, as long as you're happy with it. Like again, like Will said, go on a diet, take that other stuff out of the equation, and go, geez, this is what I did today, and like look at it and go, okay, all right, pet it a few times, all right, okay, I like it. There you go. Get to know it. Again, knowing when to do those things is part of the process. And I think it's key.
Author Austin Kleon wrote a couple of books. He wrote the book Steal Like an Artist, and Steal Like an Artist is literally all about how great art is made, because there's no original art anymore. It's all it's all someone's interpretation of someone else's interpretation of someone else. So he says to steal like an artist. So he breaks down his whole process and his whole thing in his books and like what he's done with it, and he takes things from everywhere. So find something or find someone that's doing the same thing you're doing if you need a little help, and follow that person and see what they're doing. If there's anything that's been done, there's a path to it. So, and if that means how do you get through grief, well, then look up how do you get through grief, and then start there, and then get through your grief of that failure, and then get out there and kick some ass again. Because you know why? Your lumens are worth it, man. We need your brightness.
And don't forget that sometimes new roads don't pave themselves. You know, sometimes there is no road there. And if you have to, walk through some knee-deep muck to get to it and kind of make your own path, so be it.
I never knew a road that did pave itself.
Well, you know what I mean. Like sometimes if the road's not, if the path isn't there.
That's right. Make your own path.
Right.
I like it. Timmy said to create your own path. Timmy.
That's my zen for the day.
That's right.
Create your own path.
Create your own path. Just
create your flag, put it on a pole, and hang it.
There you go. Let your freak flag fly.
That's right. It's not about what what anyone else has done before you or what they're going to do after you. It's about what you accomplished and what you created and made and what you wanted to accomplish. If again, write it down on a piece of paper. If it's something that you think you're not good at or whatever, you have to have some self-compassion and understanding that this might be the first time you're trying to do something or working on something. So it's going to be new, and you're not going to know how to do it. I mean, there's very few people in the world that can just jump into any situation that they've never done and just master it and just, make it look like it's easy,
There's a lot of hours made looking at it, making it look easy.
Right, that's what I mean. There's a lot in that, but we don't see that, you know what I mean?
We don't want to see that, though. We want to I think maybe that's part of it, man.
Maybe
I think we want it.
Like what you said earlier, we don't want to be is here and now.
Right.
We're looking at that end goal, you know what I mean?
Sure, you're looking at the end, or you're looking at all the past ones that you didn't make. And see, that's what happens though. If you view something as a failure, you have the possibility of viewing the next thing as a failure and the next thing as a failure. And unfortunately,
That's a good point.
You let those failures add up in your own mind, and it's going to be very hard to break that cycle. So the first thing you got to do to break that cycle is stop saying failure. Just stop. Nix it from your vocabulary. There's some cool words out there.
Make up a word, man.
Make up a word, man.
If you can't think of one, make up a word and again, maybe don't focus on that aspect of it. Just don't, you know what I mean? Like, I messed that up, crap. And then keep your mind focused on, what you want to accomplish and what your goal is or what you're looking to accomplish, what you're looking to do, what outcome you want. Just focus on that.
Yeah, focus, the end game is the outcome. And then you can focus on all the ways to get there. But just make sure you kind of just systematically take it a little bit at a time. That way you don't overwhelm yourself, because overwhelm is also a big rock to get in your way to
Another
stop
resistance,
you.
right?
Yeah, it's overwhelm.
What's the best way to eat an elephant?
Not eat an elephant.
One bite at a time.
Yeah.
It's just a saying.
I know it is. It's a weird saying though, because it's just like
saying.
It's just like.
But that the saying was probably centuries.
Yeah,
old.
I know.
So,
probably was.
They knew that they weren't gonna, but they were just probably not overly sensitive, I guess, to it. And
they probably weren't, because they were too worried about getting eaten by saber-toothed tigers to decide whether or not it was a funny analogy or not.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. But either way, it's just we're not telling you to do something or not do something. We're just kind of stealing some phrase from centuries ago and rehashing it.
Yeah, it needs an update.
Needs an update.
Needs an update. And you know what else needs an update? You need an update. You need an update about Above Ground Podcast. And if you do, please follow us on socials at Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr at Above Ground Podcast, on Twitter at Above Ground Pod. You can find the podcast on Castbox, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google,
Nippertown.
Audible, and of course, hi Jim, Nippertown.com. Nippertown.com, 518's premier spot for all your arts, entertainment, news. What a great website and resource, man. Anything, if you're coming to the 518 or if you're here now, it's a great resource for shows, for reviews, everything. So check it out. Check us out on there. And check out everybody else on there, man. Fuzz, that Fuzzing 518 show. That was fun. He's going to have Timmy on. We couldn't quite make it work with everything going on. But that was cool. And, you know, Ralph Friend is on there too. So check it out. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for listening. Yeah, thank you, Alyssa, for the idea for the question. Hope we kind of chopped away a little bit at it for you, and maybe you can see things a little more clear now.
Yeah. Alyssa, if you're listening, yeah. Hopefully we did it justice. But there's always lots of ways through. And that's the only way. The only way out is through. So you got to get through it first, and then assess and reassess.
On that note,
so until next time, be well.
be safe.
Hey, be above.